Didier, you've given a keynote on the origin of life, how science is addressing one of humanity's most complex and profound questions. What were your key points?
Yeah, well, the short message that I've been trying to convey is, I think even a question so profound and so difficult can be addressed, but we may need to rethink a little bit the way science works, because science is too much inherited from what I call the Victorian age of the science, with a lot of silos, and it has been reflected on the funding agency and the policy for science. And this kind of problem is too much horizontal in the sense that you need to combine so many fields together to make progress that we have to change it. Unfortunately, the only thing we can do is establish a kind of a new structure within science, which we call center, but ideally, we should consider breaking the science structure apart and make it much more fluid. That would be much closer like what is actually science.
Breaking the silos seems to be a leitmotif of this summit. Policymakers work in silos, science community work in silos. So how do we make sure that these communities better understand each other?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because the scientists, they quite easily can cross the bridge. But essentially, there is so many red tapes all around them that comes from what's called admin request, or maybe some specific aspect of some fundings. So it turns out that there is a delay between the creativity of a scientist and the way the system to support science is implemented. The only way to do that is what I said always, let the scientists do the job and stop policing science, stop being too directive into the science, stop adding extra burden on too much reporting, too much detail to feedback. I think it's about freedom, and science is closer in that sense to an artistic, I think, work rather than an admin follow-up work. And that is really the tensioning here, because state has to report about the way they spend the money, so they want as much controlling as they can get, but at the same time, it's absolutely orthogonal to the way science works. And we have to find some kind of middle ground, but what I'm worried about is the tendency these days is to add even more burden that limit even more the creativity. And if you stick within exactly the track of what you're doing, I think that would be fine. You can even get a lot of fundings, but as soon as you want to be a bit extravagant and try to go a little bit outside the usual boundary conditions, what we call the gray zone, which is usually where you have a lot of low-hanging fruits, it becomes tremendously difficult. And essentially, you have either to be a big university or a Nobel Prize winner to break the wall. Otherwise, it's very difficult. And I think it's absolutely dramatic, because science is being made by young people, and it's very difficult for this new generation of scientists just to establish themselves into this kind of cross-disciplinary topic. So it's a very, very difficult question to deal with, but we will have to solve this together.
You are a Nobel Prize winner, so what can you commit to doing differently?
Well, what I'm trying to do first, I'm trying to establish, enable, when it's possible, this idea of bringing different topics together. This is what we're doing at the HTX Zurich. This is what we're doing in Cambridge, and other of my colleagues are doing that in other universities. And when I have an opportunity to talk to the funding agency or to talk to the policymaker, I'm trying to convey this message and trying to explain how much, I don't think they realize, but how much they are preventing the creativity just by over-regulating the science.
Thank you very much.